people who just phone numbers who
Cameron.
they are. Yes.
Is Krista still at your branch?
She's at Harvard Lee,
Oh, okay.
but she gave me lots
Did
of
you-
resources and
You
connections.
started the taping? Yeah. Oh, it will be.
Not yet.
Greetings.
Bianca, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Chip. I can hear you.
So we're gonna start. Julie's on her way, and you're on the agenda for whatever you'd like to say, but the title of your speech is What's Happening with the Shaker Square.
Okay,
Kind of a
well,
broad
certainly
topic.
would love to say a few things outside of the square also. But we're moving forward with Shaker Square.
Sure, go
Again,
ahead.
can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and
Okay.
clear. We have the owl on.
Okay. I think from our last update that Terry gave, we were focused on stabilizing, and we're still in that phase of Shaker Square. So working consistently with the tenants, moving into the capital needs assessment and assessing the repairs that need to be done on each unit and the structure overall. With most things that are happening in the world that we're living in right now, there are some delays in major systems that are needed, such as HVAC. So that might cause some timing delays and repairs that are to be lined up, but those things are all being worked out with the team that we have at Playhouse Square is our property manager, and then Fast is our leasing agent. Happy to report that the majority, I think we're 98% occupied with the retail tenants and still have some vacancies in the office space. But moving forward with addressing safety concerns, I think it's public knowledge that there have been a couple of break-ins at Shaker Square. And so working with the tenants and the 4th District to address those issues that have come up. So that's pretty much the Shaker Square overview.
One question, Bianca.
Yes,
You
sir.
said Playhouse Square was the property management now?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was some, are they doing the assessment of the capital needs, or are they actually leasing out the places?
The leasing agent is Fast. So the leasing agent is separate from the property manager, but yes, Cresco Playhouse Square is doing the capital needs assessment.
Do you have a sense of how much that's going to be?
I do not, because the assessment is underway.
What's the timeline, Bianca?
I don't have a clear idea of that timeline, Michelle. Terry would probably have a better indication of that particular detail, but I'll see if I can get you an answer to that.
Thank you.
No problem. Outside of Shaker Square, I'd like to mention that there's still a community health needs assessment that's happening in the neighborhood. I know there were publications and articles about it in the Chat Connection. We've tried to circulate that information around the neighborhood. And I know when I first started a couple of years ago, people in the community were asking about a community health needs assessment. So I just want to reiterate that the opportunity still exists for residents to provide their input on the health of the neighborhood. This is for our entire service area that we're doing this community health needs assessment. From the last round of data that I got from CASE, we were getting a decent amount of response from Buckeye and Woodhill residents, but not people that are self-identifying as Larchmere or Shaker Square. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to provide their input into that community health needs assessment. And if anybody, I'll make sure to get Nasha the information to disseminate after the meeting. But it's again in the Chat Connection, there's an article about it and access to the survey, and I'll make sure you'll get another link so that you can complete that and provide your input.
Good.
Oh, good.
Can I recommend that we use our networks, email the networks to get that word out? 'Cause
Yeah,
we
I'm
definitely
going to
want
talk about it
urge
again
everybody
at
to respond.
that would be great. I'm going to talk about it next week at the Larchmere Community Association meeting. I just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to participate.
Bianca, you may have said this, it's Meg. What's a new, what timeframe, by when do responses have to be in?
We're trying to close out the survey by the end of the month. It's been going since August. But if we have to extend because we're not feeling like we're getting responses, we'll consider that. But I'm pretty confident that mentioning it to this group and presenting at LCA next week, I'm hopeful that we'll get a little bit more responses from the broader Buckeye area. But I'm just noticing that we don't have much from Larchmere residents, that's who I was hearing the loudest, that they wanted this community health needs assessment. So just want to make sure, again, all voices have the opportunity to participate.
And Bianca, also for the tenants in the apartments, often it's a phone number that people use for contact rather than email. So I don't know if there's a way to get, a text version out, or I know BBC has an Instagram. Maybe we should put it on our Instagram or something like that.
Oh, it's on our Instagram, so I'm happy to share it. I just saw that Shaker Square or the Mourners Group started an Instagram page, so happy to share it with your Instagram page. But it's on our Instagram, our Facebook, the Shad Connection. So happy to share it again so it can get out.
The Morelands Group has not been sending it out yet, and we'll now we're on it.
We also are grateful we have a representative of Harvey Rice Library, the director of the library here with us, and they communicate that way. So maybe we could add that in to the plan, Bianca. Thank you for giving us the chance to have some more outreach for this, because I think I agree with you, it's important.
Absolutely. That's all I have. If people have other questions for me.
Any other updates, Bianca? That's it?
That's all I have, but I'll stay on the call in case other things come up. I'll be on until about 11:15. I have an 11:30, but I'll be hanging out with you guys.
It's Julie.
How are you? Good. Hi, Jules.
Hi, Joanne.
Hey, Bianca, I have a question. You had said something about LCA next week.
Yes, I was told that the Larchmere Community Association meeting was next Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Oh, okay. When you said LCA, that's the Ludlow Community Association. And I'm like, wait, we had ours last week. So, okay. I was concerned. Okay, thank you.
She's up now.
Yeah, thank you, Chip. This is Mary Boyle. I am a poor substitute for Fran Calafatis, who's away. And so my responsibility today is to give you an update on the BP station forever and ever. We're now into a year and a half or two about what's going on with it. I did send pictures. They're not graphic, but they were pictures to indicate professional resurfacing has finally arrived at the gas station. And so the last couple of weeks, they've been resurfacing all the way back and around the unclear what it's going to be.
They need to unmute.
Did you get it?
Now it's off.
Now it's working.
Now can you hear?
Now? Is anybody interested in my continuing to pursue?
Yeah.
The
all
gas
this?
station.
So anyway, we feel that right now Shaker Heights is paying important attention to the gas station, as we have said a number of times. It is in a strategic location, because it's a landmark building. It carries an additional weight with both Larchmere, the apartment areas around it, and also as kind of an entry to Shaker Square. So it has some symbolic importance as well as being a very, very heavily used gas station. So we watch it, and there's a lot of neighbors around who watch it as well, and probably people on the phone who have on the Zoom who have a better and more update. Anyway, the windows, a lot of work on the windows, but the report is that there has been some sign of that. Unfortunately, it's on the back end, which is the western facing windows, not the front windows, which is where the drivers and the pedestrians. So, but we're hoping that's a sign that good things are to come. So I'll take questions about that later. I just want to quickly also report on the other Shaker tenant issues. I don't know, is Mrs. Carter on, Nisha? Carter is a resident of an apartment building on Kemper, one of the buildings formerly in the, hi Terry, formerly in the hands of, in the ownership of Kurt Montlack Associates. And she has been keeping us updated on the challenges that tenants in buildings that have not been maintained around the neighborhood, apartment buildings around the neighborhood. Basically no different than the problems that the Northmoreland and Southmoreland and Shaker Boulevard and Van Aken buildings have also seen. But she's been very articulate and has been withholding rent through the Shaker Heights Municipal Court because her building happens to be in Shaker. So following several of these meetings, we had a Zoom meeting that Fran arranged with two councilwomen in Shaker Heights, Councilwoman Nancy Moore and Councilwoman Carmela Williams, about ways to help Shaker Heights understand the particular challenges these apartments are facing. For instance, that there are a number of people over 65 and people with disabilities who cannot live in apartments where the elevators go out all the time, just as one example of the problems. And in the process of that meeting, Councilwoman Williams expressed interest in recommendations to Shaker Heights about what they might be doing, the city as policy and also as practice, to try to improve conditions in these apartments for the tenants. The suggestion was that at a committee meeting, the Councilwoman Williams, the committee she chairs, would meet in November, assuming evidently if the staff that is involved is ready to do that in November, and that Councilwoman Williams would entertain citizen participation in that meeting to kind of make a presentation of some sort. Now, we haven't confirmed a date and time and whether November will work for that, but we're hoping to do that in the couple of weeks ahead. And in the process, I did find that there is a Shaker Heights housing policy. It's called the Housing and Neighborhood Plan. It was evidently adopted in 2015, and somewhere recently in 2020, it has an update. And what is online now is this version with an update. So I don't know what's been there a long time or what's been recently updated, but I think in preparation for that November meeting, we ought to look this over and see how that corresponds with the experience of tenants like Mrs. Carter and others, both in what their apartment experience has been and also what their experience has been with their municipal court, because they're dealing with a different municipal court than the folks we've been working with on Morelands and Shaker Boulevard. So anybody in the audience that wants to help do this, who is part of the Shaker Heights community, Ludlow people, Boulevard people that are on this call, we'd sure like to hear your willingness to volunteer, to help be conscientious citizens and prepare for the sit down perhaps with the council people in Shaker Heights in the not too distant future. I've also been granted a meeting with Mayor Weiss in hopefully the month of October to also tell him a little bit about the organizations that have been working on this. So that's my report for now on housing issues that we've heard about in our like north of Shaker Square general area. In the course of this, there have been some other issues lately. We have other people here from the Larchmere group that maybe want to talk about. We heard the other day about problems with break-ins in the neighborhood. I haven't experienced it, but I thought maybe others did. And also Julian Kahn and I were out on the sidewalk a couple of weeks ago concerning an eviction on the street. And so I thought maybe he could bring us up to date on that.
Should we do that now?
If you wish.
It's a great segment.
Evictions.
I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so good morning, everyone.
morning.
My name is Julian Kern, work for Neighborhood Connections, as you all may know. And also, I should probably preface this report by saying that every fourth Monday of the month, we have our neighborhood network meeting, which happens right here in this space, and that's at 6 p.m. every fourth Monday of the month.
What
And so
kind of
all
pizza?
residents, what was that?
What kind of pizza?
Oh, so you know what? Funny enough, Chip, we've been featuring different
Who that?
yeah, I don't know what I was going to try and give them a nice lofty title or whatever, but a lot of different caterers in the neighborhood. We've been featuring different folks
Oh,
over the last 6 or
great.
7 months. So just trying to give folks a good opportunity to stay connected or whatnot.
Agenda.
Not that we're following. Yeah, so a few weeks ago, as Mary kind of mentioned, there was a situation on Larchmere. I'm not sure how many of you all are familiar with Baba Shaka Hansberry. He's lived in the neighborhood for some time. He's lived in a Montlack building. It was a home. He's on the Shaker side of things on Larchmere. I guess Montlack has been having some issues, which has been well documented here and there. Shaka kind of having seeing a foreshadowing of forthcoming issues, started putting his money into escrow about 4 months ago. There was a eviction proceeding, which Shaka acted, represented himself pro se in court. The Shaker Heights court ruled against him, sided with the plaintiff, and he was subsequently evicted. Immediately following that, Shaker Heights deployed their bailiff to, institute the aforementioned. And Shaka, feeling that he was in his rights and was paid up and so on and so forth, basically stood his ground, stayed there. And that's how things kind of escalated. On that said day, I forget the dates, but I think it was a Wednesday or so, Larchmere was blocked off. There was multiple police lines, do not cross. There were snipers on roofs, there was a tank and a bunch of, it was like a huge battery ram or whatever. It was kind of a scary moment to say the very least. So I was urged to come up there. And so I walked up, got a good grasp of what was happening. And it started at about 11:30 that day. And I believe it went on for about 4 or 5 hours that day. And inexplicably, at least on our end, the police just dispersed. They just left. So that was kind of puzzling to us. My director, Tom O'Brien at Neighborhood Connections, he was with me. And a few other folks that are in the network were there as well, because we've all been working pretty closely with Shaka over the last years and for some time. So this was of some immediate concern, personal concern to us also.
So
So
the
we,
police were out there because of him?
yes, yeah. Yeah, just basically because he was refusing to leave and it just kind of kept escalating, you know. Who knows what was said in the interim or what was happening. And I just didn't feel like it was the safest moment for me to kind of go underneath the police lines. But my director did. He went there. He was trying to kind of talk about it. So kudos to him for fighting that good fight. But again, the police just kind of dispersed. We had no question, no idea why they left, but we knew that wasn't it, right? But you know, you're just not going to leave an eviction like that, just in limbo. So we started meeting, myself, some other folks who were kind of concerned about this. There was an immediate meeting that took place right after the police dispersed that happened at what used to be Mama Fosse's place, and there was a nice coalition of the faithful that just kind of came together just based off of sheer concern for Shaka and his son Pharaoh. And so from there, we kind of identified a group of folks that cared about this, brought in a few of them in conversation over the next 2 or 3 days after this event. And we were just trying to stay ahead of this, right? Like, how can we support him? What can we do? You know, is there housing around here? All of the questions. We're just exhausting all the options. The following day, we decided to meet with Shaka, which is a Monday. Tom and myself go to meet with him around this time. And that was when the police came back. And they came back a little bit differently, but they had their guns drawn and they were looking to wedge their way in between him and his home. And they did just that. They obviously had some sort of an eye on him or something, because for the small duration of time that we were outside, that was when they descended. So they obviously were looking to seize the opportune moment to apprehend him. So they arrested him on site. His son, Pharaoh, was 11 years old. Tom and I were immediately concerned about that and had to spring into action. Talking with CPS called us within an hour, just Child Protective Services. It was really we had to find immediate kin. It was really quite a day. It was not what we thought we were going to, what our Monday was going to wind up being like. But I'm sure Shaka feels the same way also. Yeah, that was about a week or so ago. The police, again, I learned some things in this process as well. Apparently, Shaker Heights does not, when you're evicted, they don't sit your items out on the tree line like they do in Cleveland proper. So that was kind of good to hear. But Shaka had to spend some time at county jail, and his son kind of bouncing in between Tom, who was granted the rights to kind of look over him as the police were taking Shaka away. Shaka said, "Hey, Tom, can you look after my son?" And so that's what we honored. We honored his request, and that's what we felt like after talking with a few specialists that the CPS would honor and respect, right? His wishes as he was being carted off. So, yeah, it's been a kind of a winding road in regards to this. Since then, Shaka has since been released. He was released by the Bail Project 2 days ago. I was supposed to meet with him yesterday, but I spent most of the day in Canton, so I'm still looking to catch up with him. But not sure, not clear where he's going to be. I mean, is he housing secure? Absolutely not. What's the status of him and his son? Where are they living at? I couldn't tell you right now. Pending charges, I know that he had 3 charges, one of which was citing the public panic, and a few other charges as well. But yeah, that's pretty much.
Where's the landlord?
Now, I'm not sure. From my understanding, Montlac is selling it, but that was who had taken them to court. So obviously, as a result, Montlac was 22. So
Just as a point of information, I live in a what used to be a Mount building. They've been taken over by this Cleveland Property Management Group. So it's a very unclear situation because we don't even know if our building has an owner, has a manager. So I think it's probably, I think they've taken over all the Mount buildings are running it. Not very well. I'm the one, Lakemore, right next to what used to be the Bell. It's a very bad situation right now. So it's very concerning for the future of the square, what's happening with these former Mont buildings.
and that's
On that day, we heard that there is a name of a company that had bought that. This is a single family house.
yes.
So it's here, I mean, it never occurred to me that Montlake had anything like that, but that was the case. The Shaker Heights Police had, was the official person that day, had the name of another owner who was the complainant in this case. So wherever Shaka and his situation and his rent and all the other things that might have been involved with him and his former landlord, Shaker Heights evidently had the name of another landlord now, another buyer, which of course, as we know, would have required some sort of a inspection of the house. So that's partly why stories that happened afterward didn't make a lot of sense to me. So, I mean, I think that would be something we will hear more about, whether we want to go find out about it or not, that is of this bill.
Thank you, Julian. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Sorry for my tardy. I had something I wanted to share with everyone about listening, and it's only a paragraph. Listen with the purpose of understanding people today. Seek to gain knowledge from their experience, their perspective, and their feelings. That was a thought for today, listening. So I'm so good to see my sunshine, Michelle Jackson. Welcome. Nice to see you. Thank you. You're on the agenda. Yeah. You're up next regarding participatory budgeting. Thank you.
I talk so fast, it's so hard to say that for me. So I have broken it down to the people's budget to keep it simple. I'm Michelle B. Jackson, and it's funny, when I came in, Chuck asked me, so have you reclaimed Ward 4? Because now I'm seemingly jumping into something else, and I just wanted to say to folks that I went through some things with my mother for the past 6-7 months, and I just completely was not on my radar to officially close out Reclaim Ward 4. Our intention from the beginning was to go through the 2020 elections. And that's what we did. But I wanted to have a more formal process of switching over to more of an educational sort of situation. But life interferes sometimes with plans of saving and reclaiming. So anyway, so I was hired in August to work on a grassroots project called Participatory Budgeting Cleveland, PB-CLE. And essentially what a group of young wonky people like Mayor Bibb, some of these really, we have some amazing bright young people in this town that I'm so impressed with. But they saw an opportunity with ARPA dollars, Cleveland getting like $500 some million, to take a percentage of that to apply to the people, for the people in the neighborhoods to decide how to spend it. Participatory budgeting is not new. It actually started in Brazil in 1989 in a city that was, you know, when a more progressive government took over, Workers' Party. They saw this tool as a way to combat poverty. And sure enough, that within the first decade of participatory budgeting in the city in Brazil, they went from 75% of the people having connections to sewer and water to 98%. So that's like a measurable difference when people got involved and said, here's how we need to spend this money. Here's how it's going to have the most impact. So we are trying to bring this to Cleveland, and Mayor Bibb supports it. He's proposed $5 million of the ARPA money to go for us to pilot the project, PB-CLE, to pilot the project. We don't want to just do it for 2 years, clearly. We want for this to become just a part of the normal budgeting process, cycle after cycle. But with the ARPA money, it's an opportunity to really set up the process and to actually model it. So Chuck, are you going to be able to show the little video I sent?
We have our video specialist is here.
Awesome. We have a video specialist here, along with our photographers. And but I'd like for you to just watch the very short video. And I love it because it's participatory budgeting in New York City. And it's people that are involved in it telling the story. And then I can just give you a little more background for Cleveland after we watch the video. It's under 5 minutes. Thanks.
So I think that we have to see the screen here.
You live in this community and you pay
Big
taxes,
screen TV.
come out and vote, decide how your tax dollars get spent.
Participatory budgeting gives people real power over real money to make the decisions that affect their lives. It's a democratic process in which ordinary community members directly decide how to spend part of the public budget.
Oh, this is different because you're actually voting for where the money is going to be spent instead of allowing them to decide where to spend the money.
Who knows better about their community than the people that live in their community?
Not be afraid of the big words, participatory budgeting. It sounds boring, but it's the opposite of that.
So how does it work? First, people brainstorm ideas. They come together in meetings and assemblies and start to think of what kinds of projects they would like to see in their neighborhood.
We had to think big. We have $1 million that we could use, so we can fund parks, health issues, streets.
Volunteers work with experts to turn people's initial ideas into full project proposals.
We started with maybe about 40 projects, and so we had a series of budget delegate meetings, and we narrowed down the list into about 4 or 5 projects.
We met with the Parks Department and we talked about what we wanted to see change in some of the parks and how we were going to work with them.
What are the real needs in the community? If you only have a certain amount of money, what is it that you can do that's going to benefit as many people as possible?
I'm dreaming of new benches, modern benches. Seniors have nowhere to go.
Displays at bus shelters throughout the district, and it will tell people when their next bus is due to arrive.
We're asking for a projector and 30 Mac laptops.
State-of-the-art teen fitness center.
To put solar panels on a firehouse.
After volunteers share the top projects, the community gets ready to vote.
It's a way of validating every voice in our community and saying, you know what, whatever your position is, you live in our community, you have a right to decide, and that me as a representative and government should respond and should listen to that voice. Anybody could vote in this process. Immigrants, whether you're documented or not, young people that normally don't get to vote.
Most people, they don't even know that 16-year-olds can come out here and vote today. Some of them are really surprised. They said, really? I said, yeah. They have a voice.
The projects with the most votes get funded.
The Red Hook Library Community Garden, right here.
The projects are then implemented over the next few years. In the following year, the process starts again. People brainstorm new ideas, turn them into new projects, vote on them, and fund more improvements for their community. PB becomes part of the budget process. It becomes a new way of governing.
I think this is like the greatest wave of democracy coming into the United States. It started in Porto Alegre, Brazil in 1989.
From there, it spread all over Latin America to over 1,500 cities around the world. In Toronto, public housing tenants have decided how to spend millions of dollars on improvements to their buildings. City council members in Chicago, New York, and other cities have engaged thousands of residents in allocating discretionary funds. Entire cities have launched PB, such as in Vallejo, California, for funds from a sales tax, and in Boston for youth funds. Even schools and universities have used PB.
This was a great opportunity for you to be a part of government and better the city you live in. Who wouldn't want to take advantage of that?
You're creating a more educated platform of voters overall. So I think this can only be good for the big project of democracy.
On Simpson Park, who wants to vote for that, right?
That's one of them. So thank you so much for sharing that. That gives you just have a big picture. It really literally, a lot of people, Julie, I addressed your questions with Kate. I'm going to follow up with you about that. She said she needed to loop back in with you, by the way. Yeah. What participatory budgeting is, the people's budget, it really is a chunk of money that is strictly goes through this process where the people in the different neighborhoods decide how to spend it. That's great. Well, it seems like a no-brainer, and it really, as a young lady said in the video, it really enhances civic engagement. It's a purest form of democracy. It's transparent. Now, in our case, because we're using ARPA dollars, there will be, even though it's very expansive what you can do with them, there will likely be some restrictions, but within this framework, anything goes sort of situation. My job is getting out to the communities, and Cleveland Votes is one of our sponsors, and they just hired another organizer. So there'll now be two of us, which is great because there's a lot of turf to cover. We're trying not to talk to the usual suspects, so we're really going deep to reach into communities with people. This is one of the council people's concern is how do you reach those people who aren't comfortable showing up at a public meeting? They don't want to go make a public comment, but we want to hear their voices. So that's really what I've been tasked with and what I've tasked myself with. That's very important to me. So we're at a stage now where we need for city council to vote on this. So our efforts are to show city council leadership in particular that this is something people want. People get it, they want it. It's not redundant. A lot of people have asked me questions about, well, did the CDCs get the money? No, this is not a CDC thing. This is not government money per se. It's not like a block grant money. For this round anyway, to set up a model to pilot a program, it will be coming from ARPA dollars. Moving forward, there does need to be a discussion of where will this money come from in the future for a pot of money for the community to decide on. So I'm asking y'all on this call, if you're City of Cleveland, I'm sorry, my suburb friends, but this is strictly a City of Cleveland thing, because we are talking to Cleveland City Council, and we're hoping to get a vote in December or perhaps after the holiday in January. And we're basically, the first year would be setting up and instituting the process. This again, it's not new, it's been done in a lot of cities here, so we have a framework for doing that, but we would like to set our own up specifically for Cleveland. And then the second year, projects will start to be implemented. With ARPA dollars, they have to be spent within a certain time. So it's not as if this is going to drag out with the ARPA dollars.
4 years.
4 years, right. So we will have to, the projects will have to be something that can be instituted within a certain time frame. And yeah, so I can take any questions, but the ask is for y'all to go to our website, pbcle.com. And the first thing you'll see is a form for you to endorse this, and if, we'd love if you would volunteer with us. We basically have, I have October, rest of October, November, to really get this groundswell. Our strategy is that we've been collecting postcard signatures. We're asking people to make a phone call to Council President Blaine Griffin and also to their own council person to say we support this. If you need a sample script, I'd be happy to give it. You can send an email. Chuck, in fact, I can do that through Chuck and the Alliance. But we really want to get as much broad-based support as we can get. I think that there are some council people who are definitely for it. Others are skeptical. It's not that they're against it. It's that they're skeptical and they just need to know more. I think that the way the project started off, from my understanding, I wasn't there a year and a half ago, but wonky young people tend to give a lot of wonky papers. So it was a 50-page report. Here's what we're going to do. And when I got hired, I said, I'm not going to read this. Just tell me, give me the soundbite, please. But it contains a lot of great information. We boiled it down to a 2-pager, which is fantastic. Great, thank you. Which is fantastic. So it really is. It's new for Cleveland. Cleveland leadership, often the political representation, they often don't like change too much. We found that out when we got public comment a couple years ago. But that was an easier sell than this because this involves real dollar and real power. And so that's a little bit harder when people really truly are committed to saying, I represent you, you elected me to represent you. So I'm not saying that it's that anybody on council has a wrong attitude towards this. It's just understanding it more and seeing how it benefits everybody in the community, including city council. So any questions, I'd be happy to take. Thank you.
And how much money was it?
So Mayor Bibb is proposing $5 million. Yeah, we originally asked for 30.8 million because that is a poverty rate in Cleveland.
What is he asking for again? I'm sorry.
So it's 5 million. Mayor Bibb has proposed 5 million from ARPA dollars. But I mean, to make a point, because the participatory budgeting really grows out of poverty, to attack poverty in this Porto Alegre in Brazil. So it made sense to say, look, you guys are getting all this money. This represents less than 1% of what you're getting in ARPA dollars. And it makes a point of, we have such a high poverty rate. We are the poorest big city in the United States of America. So whatever we're doing is not really working. I maintain. And so it really would, this is an opportunity. And as you get people more involved, you build community, you build leadership, because we don't come in and tell people what they need to choose or what they need to propose. We come in to provide the structure around, here's how we can help you do that. And it builds people really actively engage and be able to say, wow, I participated, and that's why we have that. It really will make a difference over time. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think we're going to get there, but we need everybody on this call to possibly support this, to just make your voices known.
I have a question. So can this go towards staff salary too, or is this just for infrastructure?
It's not just for infrastructure, and I cannot tell you exactly what the parameters are. Only because ARPA dollars. If it wasn't ARPA dollars, it could be for whatever makes sense. And it doesn't have to be for an existing project. So in some cities, I looked at what other cities did that have been doing for a while. It was something as practical, meaning Cleveland, as bus shelters in Grand Rapids, Michigan, or someplace where it's really cold, to expanding services for gay and lesbian LGBTQ. Okay, so it really is, your imagination is the limit. And I think that people are so used to being told, you have to spend it for this, you have to spend it for that. So it's going to be an education process.
Okay, and so then if it's like for the program for LGBT, is this something where you have a sustainability plan built in, and is it for a one-time amount?
It would be good to have a sustainability plan built in.
Okay.
Okay. And in some cases, it would be a one-time, like you build a bus shelter, and you build a bus shelter.
Right.
But again, the vision is that the mayor will set up a point person in his administration. That we will then, that person will partner with a nonprofit in the community that has a community-wide footprint, like a Cleveland Votes, to sort of manage that on the ground and the voting piece, because the voting piece is huge. And you can't just put it online, because we know we have a lot of Wi-Fi apartheid zones in Cleveland. And so we, you have to have all these different mechanisms. Rice Library would be an outlet for people to come and vote when we get to that point. Corner stores, you just have to really, and that's what the nonprofit will come to manage. So I think that the parameters become more clear. In fact, someone sent to me today, and I didn't have a chance to read it before I came, but what are some of the guidelines around using ARPA? So as I become better educated, I'll be able to answer.
I would just tell you that we spent a lot of time looking at ARPA dollars, and you can drive a truck through ARPA. I mean, it's pretty wide open.
That's what I understood.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you can do a lot of things with it.
Which is a blessing and a curse.
Which is a blessing and a curse, but it's not like block grant dollars where you have to fix so much maximum feasible participation, low and moderate income people, this census tract versus that census tract. I mean, ARPA is pretty wide open. Capital, operating, I mean.
Which is why the young people who started the movement. And they all, by the way, have full-time jobs. So, I'm really, like I said, very impressed with what they've accomplished in a year and a half without this being their full-time jobs. But this is why using the ARPA dollars to pilot a program makes sense for Cleveland.
Absolutely.
And, it takes us a little harder to convince on things. But so this is a great opportunity because you do have more latitude. Yes.
So is Lakeside supporting you all in kind of building out this infrastructure, or the structure of how this the process? Or...
Okay, do you mean government or?
Yeah.
No.
So this you all have the autonomy to just kind of build this out.
But what we're doing, Julian, is meeting individually with every single council person, and of course, frequent meetings with the mayor.
Right.
So the mayor's on board, and then it's helping to shape this. But the mayor has asked PB Fleet to actually put together the proposal that would be the basis of the ordinance from City Council. And so, yeah, so we're meeting individually with City Council members, really trying to get that support, answer questions, do all that. And I think that the one thing we want to be careful is there'll be a steering committee set up. And so council will appoint some people, PB Fleet will appoint, and the mayor will appoint. Okay. So there'll be equal numbers of people from the three different stakeholders, immediate stakeholders like that. Yeah. So they'll definitely be involved in it.
So that did answer my question, but how would the monies be divvied up over the whole city, or would we just, if our project is deemed appropriate, would we get just what we need? Or that was just my question. But I know it's going that $5 million. If that's for the whole city, that's not a big amount of money.
Okay. Yeah, well, you know what? You'd be surprised. Because if you heard in New York City, they're talking about $1 million, all right? And look at all the projects that came out of it. So I too was like, $5 million, but it actually could go a long way. So I think to answer your question, instead of splitting it up between wards, because there's 17 wards in Cleveland, we're proposing that we use the statistical planning districts, which is 6, and those 6 districts incorporate all of the neighborhoods. And so you have a projects coming out of each of those planning districts. Does that answer your question, though? And yeah.
Yes, it does.
And you'd have to build up teams and leaders in each of those districts. And that's what the ground game is about, is getting out there now to meet as many people, attempt to engage them now and later when time comes. That's the work of this.
So then this right here would run parallel with Bianca's neighborhood assessment. I'm just.
That's a really good point.
I guess there could be intersections, but I think they're two different outcomes.
I know they're two different things, but if we're asking for our neighborhood health assessment, then some of the things that are wrong in the neighborhood are infrastructure and maybe some projects for beautification and things like that. That was just my point.
Yeah, sure. Did we lose them again?
Yeah, we're not getting any sound.
Okay.
The owl isn't working.
Hi, Mo, are you still there?
Yeah, we're back. You guys got us back now.
Okay. So I just wanted to try to answer Mo's question. We have not formally engaged with Bianca around that health survey, but thank you. Now it's on my to-do list because that would be a really great tool as we go out into the communities. But it's really, you know, the way it'll happen would be in a lot of different ways. So as you saw on the video that some people were doing it in public meetings, but we may have to do this in small groups at a block club or in the park, you know, to get people engaged. And it really starts with the brainstorming, and that's the year. And then we will help the neighbors, the residents, to formulate these proposals and get them in the right format to submit for ARPA funding. And that's the hard work of the first year. Yeah, it's exciting to think about.
Yeah, it is. It makes me feel a lot more empowered.
Michelle, of course.
Exactly.
Michelle, of course, this is
I'm sorry,
Bianca. Of course, Michelle, this is Bianca. Of course, I'm happy to talk with you offline about how we can find some intersections and connect on that.
Fantastic. I never, you know, that was such a great point. So I'll definitely be reaching out to you.
Okay.
So thank you. If anybody has any other questions, shoot them to Chuck and he can give you my.
So is prosecutor, he's not on?
No. Well, you have a very accessible
Okay.
website. I just.
So makes
went
next.
to it
Good,
on
thank
my
you.
phone,
Yeah.
so anyone can just look it up on their phone. They also
I called him, I wrote him.
It's very accessible. Thank you.
At the forum, sign up form.
You can sign up for it, yeah.
So much, Michelle.
Sure, thank you, Julie.
So Robert could not attend today, so we're gonna move right along. Ned Weingard will talk about the Moreland School.
Okay, great. Hello, all. Good to see you. And so I guess we'll get back to you if you have more to say during.
I'll talk after you.
Okay. Okay, so we'll make sure I won't take too long. So several items. I hope everyone knows we had a festival a couple weeks ago on a Saturday. Thank you to Harriet Wadsworth and so many other volunteers for a successful fest. Brought in enough donations to cover the expenses. That was good. There were resource organizations there, including a COVID vaccine bus, and Shaker Schools was there handing out books and supplies, and other resource organizations. Just under 100 people filled out cards for the raffle. So we got names and addresses, and we'll be following up with these people to adding these aid to the Morelands group slideshow from the festival that will we've linked to in emails. Maybe we'll link to it again in another one. And we're starting to plan for next year. So if you're interested in that, you know, put your name in the chat or let me know. Harriet, sorry not to be here today. So also, thank you to all the people who helped to beautify Helen Simpson Park before the event. It was it's full of moments. With Director Sally Martin, and if you want to, if you have a code compliance issue, email the Morelands group. If you'd like to be added to these monthly meetings, they're Zoom, let us know. We can send you, so you get the link. We're still, okay, we always mention 2962 that was, sorry, it's just Southmoreland that had the, is all boarded up, and we still are bugging the city, every month about that. Now, this is, yeah, it's not, okay. Tenant engagement. We've got Regina here, who's one of our spokespeople. At first, I'll say that the tenant group, this is a report from Jay Westbrook, was unable to join us this morning, but tenant groups at 3 properties west of the square on Shaker Boulevard, 12500, 12600, 12701, Shaker Boulevard, all have the same owner. They report serious problems with this new owner and manager. Basically,
Is that what six?
those are
6 on one side.
yeah, on the east side, on the north side of Shaker Boulevard. The building on the north side of Shaker Boulevard is Ward 6. Okay. The 2 buildings on the south side are Ward 4. Okay. Yeah. That's where Regina lives. Yeah. So these, based upon tenant requests, and with the support of the Morelands Group, these 3 buildings have been the focus of comprehensive rental registration inspection by the city, and violations are pending. Very deeply concerning is very irregular behavior with leasing. We had a report at Tuesday's Morelands Group meeting, very irregular. So the group is planning meetings to get legal consultation. So, Regina, would you like to add to that?
Yes.
Go ahead. Why don't you stand up, Regina, please?
We have had City of Cleveland come in the building last Friday.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, Regina, go ahead.
They came to City of Cleveland, the health department, and they knocked on every door to take pictures of the mold. The other thing, I think her name was Miss Allen, that I originally did a complaint about the mold in the foundation. Another city truck came, I think 2 days after or before, the health department came. Their pictures and everything, because she told me that they would have to take their pictures too, to know how many people they need to be in the building to get it all out. Our foundation, you might as well just let the mold paint the rest of the building. So that referral was made by the health department to the City of Cleveland, and they did come. Mary Bull, we were talking, and she gave me a little help on us putting our rent in escrow. I called down to legal aid and I talked to Russell, and he was giving me some good advice, and the people at legal aid giving me some good advice. And between both of them, we got at least 8 more tenants, which I'm gonna, help spruce that up. They came from, is it Earl B. Turner's office, I believe?
Earl B. Turner's, yes,
Yeah.
the county clerk?
County commissioner or something.
No.
Municipal court.
City, yeah. He gave the number so that one of his representatives can come out and help us fill out, because we all are doing new leases, and I said I wasn't going to sign until we totally understood, what to do. So 3 of our worst, people have the worst apartment. They came to their homes and they helped them fill it out. The whole document and everything, and the leasing. So I'm thankful for that. So we can get more. And I need more knowledge to help them, to get, and Mr. Russell said he is willing to come to any meeting that we have, to help. Also, like I said, the lady that I talked to that went to my neighbor, which her carpet is full of mold. Okay, for what, 3 years now. And each day I wake up, and with more frustration, and I just can't understand how a city could, let property get to this point. I wish I understood that.
Yeah.
It's not too hard.
So-
You're not alone, Regina.
Well, this is great that you are advocating for yourself and your neighbors and with Morelands Group Health, I mean, working together. This is great. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Regina. Really appreciate all you're
Thank you,
doing.
Regina.
I know infrastructure is next on the agenda, but I just want to quickly do a security update from Bob Render because while I'm still talking, because he sent it by email. He was sorry he was unable to be here today, but here's an update from Jennifer Bartholomew. So update for today's meeting. I'm just going to read it. Thanks to Jay Westbrook's advocacy, the city of Cleveland moved the contracting process forward from the Department of Public Safety to law. Now, we're talking about this $1 million safety grant. The grant's primary partners are working to schedule a meeting before the end of the month to discuss potential modifications to the plan period, first year of the grant, in response to the delays. As a reminder, the primary goal of the grant is to reduce crime, advance neighborhood development goals, and enhance partnerships with law enforcement. As a requirement of the funder, the first 8 to 12 months of the grant are to be used as a planning period. The primary focal area is along the Buckeye corridor between Wood Hill and North and South Moreland, and not overlook down to Forest. That's the report. Okay. With that, what else? I'm going to conclude this portion of the Morelands Group report and hand over to Merrill Gordon. But I just want to say that if the Morelands Group meets the first and third Tuesdays of the month at Edwin's Bakery on Buckeye at 9:15. It is in person and by Zoom, but you can tell the in-person experience is better. We have the same in and out of the Zoom. And all are welcome. Put your name in the chat or somehow get in touch with us or just show up. And with that, I'll turn it over to Merrill Gordon about the North-South Moreland infrastructure project.
All right. Hi, everyone. I feel like I've given this report many, many times, so I apologize if it's redundant to those of you who heard it previously. The city of Cleveland is investing $7 million in an infrastructure project, a water line replacement project from Livingston to Larchmere, and it goes underneath the square. What they were able to do is apply some of those dollars to above ground improvements. We had a first meeting on August 15th when the city presented some plans that did not go over well with the community. Thanks to the Moreland Group, we organized and got a lot of feedback from the community of what we wanted to see instead. And so then there was another meeting on September 20th, which was a little bit closer, but was still pretty antagonistic. Not the greatest results in that meeting. However, the councilman said we're going to have a walkabout so that all the city staff, she could be there, and anybody who had they spent 4+ hours out there. We walked almost the entire stretch of the route and looked at every single intersection, every item that they had of concern, and really listened to the residents. They have subsequently had 2 more meetings internally at the city, and what we're anxious for is the next iteration of this plan. They've agreed to have a small group meet with them and see what this is, see how close we are to agreeing to each one of these intersections and each area of design. And they're going to include in the bid package that all of the sandstone, sidewalk slabs will be salvaged.
Recording
and
recording. Sorry, that's mine.
And so,
Sorry, could you repeat that?
sure, they have agreed to include salvaging and hopefully repurposing the sandstone slabs, which in most parts of the city have already been destroyed and, built in as concrete. I think, I don't know for sure if sidewalks are to be replaced on the entire duration of the roadway. I think it's 1.2 miles from end to end. But then there's going to be yet another community meeting, and they don't want to have it at the movie theater and have it be a presentation and response kind of thing, but have it more of an engagement, have maps and plans out, and really sort of have people be able to touch and feel and talk through with individuals within the community. So they need to find a place to have it, and so this might be perfect. It's a little closer to, I think, the roadway, but that's still to be determined. And all of this can be, details can be found as Meg continues to send out on the Morelands Group email blast. If you're interested in the project itself, the website that the city set up is northandsouthmoreland.com. And everything is there, including a portal for community comments, and they keep publishing comments that people have so that it's as transparent as possible. And I'm really impressed with how the city is handling this in a way that is much more engaging and positive in terms of the community.
So is it possible that they will do a series? Because I can't think of a place that is big enough to have that type of engagement, which is, I'm so happy to hear that. And it's not going to be a talking head situation, but it may need to be a series of community gatherings so that people really, if you really want engagement and input, you have to create that environment. And you can't have 200 people there around the table.
You really
So, I mean, is that something that could be kind of put out there?
We'll certainly talk to them about that. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
The places that, one of the problems we've had historically in this neighborhood are community meeting places. There's, this is a great room, but you got to find the right time for it. And the library has issues about time. And, but that's a good room, actually.
But it's not very big, John. Where we used to meet?
Yeah.
I know that was my reservation. It didn't sound big enough.
This is a big enough room to do it in.
This is.
This
and
is.
We, even instead of a series, we could have different tables represented from people from the city so that you
Exactly, right.
Because when I worked for Swetland Center, we would do convenings, and that's how we did it. We did it in a
All you
huge
have to do is
space.
get the priest to say yes, or get Mary or whatever it is.
Julian could put in a good word.
Any other questions?
Could the ARPA dollars possibly, like we were talking, one of the issues was salvaging the trees. And so my thinking along that, I'm looking into it, is tree stewardship project in the, not just South Moreland, but also the entire South. We look kind of neglected around the Shaker Square area. So also creating a bike lane on the curbing on South Moreland. So that these are just various projects with ARPA dollars possibly be available for something like that in conjunction with this $7 million bid. Is that appropriate for me to think about? Or?
It's not inappropriate. It's not like, so I want to try to put this a little simpler because Julian brought this up to me last weekend. So there is a coalition that is really looking at how the ARPA dollars are spent. They're looking at a broader space and just it's Cleveland, different projects. So participatory budgeting, the way that it was put to me that I really understood is that we're just one ask of that pie. Okay. this coalition, Julian, is there, Kay Warren and them are focused on a number of asks, but they have their own priorities. So, so within that context, you may want to look at that group and see what their priorities are. And I will get that to somebody here. Okay, to Chuck, because I can't right now recall the name of the group.
So we have, there's Kate
Warren.
Kate Warren.
Yeah.
Kate Warren, there's a group that we, Ohio Fair Lending focuses on fair lending and ARPA dollars. We did a form, had a huge turnout. We had 143 people for that.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean, people are really interested in where the ARPA dollars are going to go.
100%. And so what Kate explained to me is that she's with Center for Community Solutions, and
Right.
in there they carved out this project, the ARPA something, something, something. And, but they have
Greater Cleveland Art
Council, yes,
Yeah.
there's a C in there.
And she has a great chart, and she knows how much money has gone out. And it's not just Cleveland, but the county has dollars. And actually, we discovered that part of the county council people are in Cleveland. So there's money, millions of dollars that they have also that goes into it.
That's the only money that we can't track.
Right.
It's what those people got.
Well, no, you can't. She has tracked it. It's,
She has?
Meredith Turner represents Shaker Square. So there's money that she gets, not personally, but I mean, as a council member.
Yeah.
And then there's money that goes to the county too.
So that would be a place to start. So if Chuck can send you that
Okay,
link to,
thanks.
yeah.
Thank
you. First of all, I have to leave, so excuse me. But I just sort of, this infrastructure project's not something I was too familiar with. Have they talked much about what's going to happen with the 48 bus route with all this?
The bus routes will remain, but during the construction, I think that's all still being determined where the detours will be when certain parts of I think the square itself will be shut down, but on the Moreland side, on both North and South Moreland, there will always be at least one lane of traffic going in each direction.
Just say a lot of people depend on that.
For sure.
And RTA has money for this to work on the bus stops and upgrade.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Meryl. Thank you, Meryl. That's great. And we'll, as we hear more from the city, we'll get the Mullins group, we'll get the word out to as many people in as many ways as we can. So.
Can I say one quick thing about the sandstone sidewalks? If they do have to pull them up, and they may not have to, but let's say they do, if they're gonna repurpose them, can they just put them back? I mean, is that something we could ask them to do? I mean, if they're gonna repurpose them, if they have to pull them up for some reason to get under there, can they just put them back? Or do they have to smash them up?
I'll mention it. I'll ask it. Yeah, sure. Yes.
Can't hear you.
Going from 121st back up to Shaker Square.
That's right.
On each separate property, they put new sidewalk in, and the rest is still broken up. But in my understanding, I was told that the sidewalk only gets fixed if the property pays for it. Is that true?
That's true, unless, oh, I'm sorry. She asked whether or not the sidewalk replacement is done, the property owner does it. The only other time it's done is when it's part of an infrastructure project. The thing that gets done no matter what, if there's a street resurfacing, is the handicap ramps or the accessible ramps at each intersection that's required. But the city doesn't just come in and fix a sidewalk because it's broken. Unfortunately, that's where the entire budget would go. There's just so many.
There's a two-year waiting period on the city level for sidewalk repair also, so it could take 3 years to.
Yeah, I was just curious because I saw it and I'm like, well, why is this this one is
Yeah. For a while, they had a 50-50 project where they were gonna put up 50% of the cost and we put up the other half, but I don't know if that's still standard, but it took us 3 years to get ours.
And I
We're
just
in shaky
All right,
square.
hey, yeah. We're going
Back to
back
Shakespeare.
to our agenda, Shaker Square update. Please welcome Terry Hamilton Brown.
Hi,
Here, here.
everybody. Happy to be here again. Well, I know Bianca provided an update, and I'll just add a couple of more things. In terms of our curb appeal and sort of sprucing up Shaker Square efforts, you'll see in the next, I guess, the remainder of this month, more landscaping, power washing of the sidewalks, power washing of the dumpster areas, window washing and door cleaning.
Here,
So
here.
all of those things should be coming together by the end of the month. And we are working on returning some kind of holiday display. And
Yay.
I said working. Working on. And so we're excited to do it. This will be the beginning and we will build on it. And I'm bringing it to your attention because I think I would welcome support in putting a committee together that would consider just holiday activities that span from Buckeye to Larchmere with Shaker Square in the middle. I mean, clearly there's lots that goes on Larchmere. Offer out and we'll follow up with people because, you know, late getting started. And so by knowing what's already in place, add the additive. So I think that would be fun. And I think that's it for now, unless
Any
there
new
are
leases?
specific questions. No new leases.
What about the bar? What was it called? The Happy Bar?
Catch Craft Bar. They're still under construction. Nothing new to report there.
Are they going into Valentine?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the plan. Well, they're working on it.
Okay.
They have a lease?
There is a lease. Yes. There was a lease that entered in through the receiver.
Shaker Square sign with the bricks underneath?
Yeah, it's damaged. Yeah, in fact, I met with the landscaper on Monday and we're going to pull out some of the tree, well, the burning bushes will get trimmed.
Right.
And there is a tree there that's not a burning bush, it's just some voluntary thing that's overgrown. That will come out, which will improve immediately the visibility for anybody turning left. The bricks will get fixed, but not today. So it's on my list. Yes. The third thing is people have asked me about benches around the square. What about them? Returning them. We have benches. Well, I
They
know
took
that
out
some
a-
benches, many of them have been
They took-
taken
yeah.
out. I know one bench was taken out by PNC because there was a situation.
By who?
Oh, the guy
By
was
the
the
bank.
woman.
Because there
Well,
were
the
two
bank is
women.
not part of Shaker Square. That's a privately owned building.
Oh, but I mean the sidewalk, like where the planter is.
Yeah,
it was
no,
next
the
to
sidewalk
planter.
isn't mine either. It's the
Oh,
city's,
is that
but,
yours? Okay,
but,
no
but,
problem.
no, not I don't mean to cut you off. I'm saying that I don't have control over it, but it is the right thing to bring up, especially in relations to the North and South Moreland improvements, because that is part of the right of way for that project. And we discussed there at that Drexmore intersection, and that's part of it, not having just concrete sidewalks, right? The sidewalks will be much wider than what's necessary. So now getting the right kind of design, but defensible design is what's really important. So the conversation is now, should happen now. But still in that area, when I met with the landscaper, so at the bus shelters, you know, we have shrubs at all of them, and some of them are overgrown. I'm pulling them all out. The trees will remain and the ground cover will remain. And that way, anybody sitting in the bus shelter will be able to see out the windows as to who's approaching and when the bus is coming. So it will look stark and bare as soon as we do it, but we'll get to have visibility while you're sitting in the bus shelter, especially
Right.
now that it's getting dark early and,
Right.
you know, both, you know, late in the morning and early at night. So those are the kinds of improvements that we're trying to make that have impact before we get to the major deferred maintenance.
So Terry, there was a question earlier about the timing of the capital needs assessment. So I just wanted to make sure that I brought that back up because Michelle asked that before you arrived.
Sure, thank you. The capital needs assessment is underway. Our property management team began the work shortly after starting their responsibilities. And we expect it to be completed in November. And I'm saying, give me till the end of November.
You got it, Terry. Anything you want.
Okay, thank you.
Just bring the check over to you.
You know, let's manage expectations. I'm sure that the list will be longer than our resources. But the point is to create the list, understand the or the lack of for the improvements, right? And then begin to prioritize. At the end of the year, so that in the spring, we can have contractors lined up. Roofing will be the top of our list.
Okay. Just like homeowners.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I have a quick
On our
question
agenda-
for Terry. This is Mary Ann. I have a quick question for Terry.
Yes, I hear you.
Can you hear me? My sound is kind of
Okay.
wonky
I
over
just-
here, so I'm not sure. I had a call earlier this week from the woman who has been filling the little free library and wanted to know where it went. Has it been removed? But I mean, it's been removed, it's gone.
Dave, right?
Yeah.
At Dave's.
Yeah. by Dave.
We do not know. We've inquired and we did not remove it. So
Okay.
we think it was vandalism. And we have gotten back to her.
Okay.
Through email.
Thank you.
Someone blamed the other. Yeah, so it's nice. There are actual books in there, a lot of.
The one in front of Shark and Meadow?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Hi,
I put a bunch
Julie,
of books.
one quick update.
No, Mary Ann is.
Oh, Mary Ann is up.
Mary Ann Cobart is up.
Chat update.
Yes, good morning. This is kind of a short report. We are working on the winter edition of The Connection, which will be coming out before Thanksgiving in time to promote the holiday stroll on Larchmere. We're regarding The Connection, we're still pursuing funding, continued funding from Councilman Gray and Council President Griffin. Normally we get something, and the last grant came through Councilman Johnson. So we're pursuing that. It's partial funding for The Connection. And speaking of The Connection, I learned in speaking earlier this week with one of the shops on Larchmere that Batuki is going to close at the end of the year. Yeah, that's what I said too. Yeah. But I believe she said in January they will be closing. So they'll get through the end of the year. And we are busy digitizing past hard copies of The Connection with the Cleveland Public Library downtown. It involves man hours of scanning papers. So if anyone, I know this group is extremely busy, but if you know of someone who's looking for a little volunteer work to do and would like to get out and maybe take the rapid downtown to the main library, we have a project that they could help us with. We've done the first 4 years, so we have plenty of years to scan. Thank you.
Thank
Mary
you,
Ann,
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, sometimes the Western Reserve Historical Society will help.
Oh, well, we just need the bodies to do it because the public
No,
library
but
is
I'm
going to.
saying that they might be willing to find volunteers.
Oh,
with you.
okay. Thank you.
I mean, that's where I dropped off all my civil rights stuff and they scanned it.
Yeah. They hold on to it.
They hold on to it. So if a student wants to write a paper, they.
So, Mary Ann, are they going to, in The Connection, talk about 2 subjects, the festival at Helen Simpson Park and also the North and South Moreland infrastructure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We'll do a photo gallery of Helen Simpson. Kristen has a lot of good pictures. And yeah, and an update on the North and South Moreland. And speaking of the North and South Moreland, I wanted to add on one little thing to Merle's report that I was really pleased that the planners were so receptive to adding a sidewalk behind Dave's. That Drexmoor sidewalk is so important, and they were very, very receptive to the idea.
15 years.
Yes, even though it's outside of the project scope, they really see that as something that's necessary.
Yeah, they felt it was really an important addition. Yeah.
So, Mary, if you wanted to submit something to Kristen, when is the deadline to do so for The Connection? Did you hear me?
Mary Ann?
Pardon me? What was the question? Could you repeat your question?
Oh, sure. If you wanted to submit something to Kristen, what would be the deadline?
Well, she's handing out the writing assignments now. Did you want to write this for this issue?
Yes.
Okay, I don't.
Yes.
I'm looking to see what the deadline is for articles, but I'll have Kristen get in touch with you.
Great.
Did you have something? Did you have something else you wanted that you think should be included in the?
Yes, possibly. I mean, I don't have to talk about it right now.
Okay, we can talk where I can, or maybe you can hear me better too, because my sound is a little sputtery.
Right, that's what that's why. It was just a question. I didn't know if anyone here also might want, I don't know how your issues structure, you know, you might already have.
Well, if there's something going on that, yeah, we'd like to know about it.
Because
If there's something special.
that I wanted maybe Julie to speak on in new business, is that we're having a civil rights marker ceremony October 20th on Hampton. So I, you know, I'm hoping that we'll talk before we conclude today's meeting. But that,
For Ludlow.
yeah, for Ludlow.
Yeah, for Ludlow.
For Shaker Square.
We'll have to take pictures for that and include that in the photo gallery with a short notice.
Thank you.
Did you want to write that, Joanne?
I could, yes. I'd be
Okay.
happy to do so.
Well, we'll talk afterwards with Kristen.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, before we, I'm sorry.
Now, I just had a quick question. We used to get the magazine delivered in our building. So are you ever going to do that again, or we have to go to the library?
12500, 12600 Shaker Boulevard. I bet Mary Ann would be happy to.
Because they keep coming to me thinking I'm supposed to solve the problem.
Oh, you're gonna be that person.
Did you hear that, Mary Ann? And I miss it.
I'll email her.
Because it's convenient.
Tell me the addresses and how, if we need to get into the problem, I think, was that we used to have someone who did it, but then we couldn't get into the buildings
You can
anymore.
call me and I can make sure they get in the building.
Okay.
I can email you her
Give me
contact information.
your
Mary Ann.
contact.
Give them my Gmail address.
I'll email it,
Make
Mary
sure
Ann.
they're in there, so everybody's happy.
You get their newsletter.
Okay. Did I hear Meg say she'll send me the contact information?
I'll send it to you, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, before we adjourn, Chip, did you have anything you want to add?
We have an update from Mary Boyle live at the church this Saturday from 10 to 12 a.m. is a breakfast, which was brought in. No breakfast? Breakfast is canceled.
No, breakfast is always the last Saturday of the month. What is happening this weekend at the church is the annual parish picnic. So that's Sunday. But the breakfast that was a
miscue.
Gaff, yeah.
Gaff, okay. We had a gaff.
Yeah. But it's the last Saturday. The breakfast is the last Saturday of the month here from 10 to noon.
I just wanted to mention, you know, in this very room, I think like 8 or 9 years ago, there was a promise made by elected officials that we would have a high-functioning community development corporation that would cover Larchmere, Shaker Square, Buckeye, et cetera. In this very room. In this very room it happened. I remember the politicians raising their hands and saying that in fact was going to happen. And it's great that we have you guys working and Bianca and everything else, but a sharp focus on those areas would really be helpful. There's a lot of issues that are affected in Fair Hill, et cetera. And I don't know what we can do to get that relaunched or whatever. I know that at one point there were 33 council seats, now we're down to 17. And the merger efforts that got groups together and got them focused on this, but there needs to be a sharp focus, maybe a subset of Burton Belcar out here or something. Not exactly sure what it would be, but we need capital and a focus. I mean, we have wonderful volunteers. I'm not suggesting they're not wonderful volunteers, but there's a limit to what you can do. And you can see how the high functioning groups, Detroit Shoreway, Ohio City, Cadell, these other groups have made a real difference on capturing capital and getting things done. You know, got a terrific job with going after the city. I mean, believe me, I'm sure they would have just walked away from this without our attention on this. And we've gone after liquor licenses, safety issues, you name it, over the years, and you helping a tenant. But we need to have a sharper focus with people and funding that would allow us to have a better focus on tenants. And I mean, one of the other issues that Mary Boyle wants to talk about is Cleveland Tenants Organization /2. We used to have a Cleveland Tenants Organization. It went under, I forget how many years ago. Quite a few.
Gary Katz.
Yeah, Gary Katz.
We need that community Congress.
What?
Julian had been advocating for reestablishing the what's it called?
BWCC,
Yeah.
Buckeye Woodland Congress.
Oh, my God.
Mary Ann, yeah, Buckeye Woodland Community Congress. That was one of the conversations that came out of before that lofty meeting that you just referenced.
How long ago was that?
That lofty meeting?
3 or 4 years ago.
No, longer than that.
It was in the early 70s. It was in the
Oh,
early
no,
70s.
no,
My
no,
husband was
not
the
BW.
first, my husband was the first president of the Buckeye Woodland Community Congress.
No, we're talking about the meeting that was here where they promised us the high
Oh,
functioning
that
development.
one.
program.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
no.
5 years, yeah.
I told you
Well,
my
thank
sound
you,
was
everyone.
sputtering.
Just ask one question. So we have Blaine's, do we have set committee meetings for Ward 4, do you know?
Yeah.
There used to be, I've been to
She
Councilwoman
rotates
Gray had them before the summer, then she decided during the summer to bring them out into the community. So she had them in various places during the community, and now that it's fall and summer's over, that's a good question.
So how do we find
What's her
out? I
plan
mean,
to-
everybody's list.
So she
For
is,
that. Like Blaine, I get his announcement.
find out.
Okay.
Well, it was on her website.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the end of the month? It was like the last Tuesday.
She
of
got
the
a
month or
Luke
Yeah,
Easter
that's the
thing.
last Tuesday of the
It
month,
was the last
exactly.
Tuesday of the month. But it's my understanding she has a new hire and maybe that's gonna, help with the communications. But it was on the website.
Okay, because I looked on.
There's definitely learning.
Maybe it
curve.
was after she did that.
Yeah.
Her phone number's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you all. We're back here. Thanks for
Thank you.
everybody coming. What?
Before we
Oh,
go
not
about the
the
civil
council.
rights, there will
Okay.
be a civil rights marker that will be placed at the corner of Hampton, Corby, and Beckett on October 20th. It's a project that Gwen Chapman, who was very active in LCA, was the chairperson of, and the late departed Kevin Lowry, who's also very active in local community. I don't know the time. Do you know the time?
I'd have to check with
We
Gwen.
can
make
check and let
sure-
you know.
We'll make sure to get a notice out if,
Right.
email me or text me the information.
I think
Because that's a
didn't
very
you get that,
important thing.
Anisha?
for us.
I sent it to you. Mary Ann, do you know when it is?
I'm just looking it up. It is at 4 p.m. Thursday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Hampton and Corby.
With a tent,
I hope so.
with a tent in case there's inclement weather.
I think when they announced it, they needed snow shovels.
2 to 4, Mary Ann, but maybe they
2 to
changed the
4?
time.
Oh, I had
October
4.
20th, 2 to 4. Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
something that said 4 o'clock.
So there may be
Sorry.
speakers there. Well, that
Maybe
could
that's
be,
when they
maybe
do
they've
the
changed it.
official
Yeah, maybe that's the official unveiling.
Well, I think, Chip, didn't you send out a flyer? Wait a minute, here it is.
America. Yeah.
I did.
Well, Friday.
The flyer says 4 p.m.
I'll find out from Mary Ann and then maybe you can.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Thank you all.
Be
Thank you, owl. We just have to get the owl to wake up throughout the meeting.
Well, the meeting is adjourned. There will be no more questions, please.